Hello, so today's video is on medical gaslighting or medical abuse. This is the psychological abuse that medical staff and doctors may engage in, which makes you feel like you're starting to question your own experiences, to question your reality. They're making you question your memories and they're making you almost distrust yourself. So this can make you feel a bit anxious, it can make you feel a bit confused, and you can feel not heard by doctors, and you might be questioning yourself and saying, is it just me? Are my symptoms real, or am I making this up? And I'll go more into the breaking down sort of what that might look like in terms of a doctor's appointment or something that's happened, and I'll sort of illustrate that by using examples that have happened to me. The term gaslighting comes from a film which was out in the 30s, I think, and it refers to it was a husband and wife where the husband was dimming the lights in the house. Now back then your lighting was controlled by gas, so he was dimming the lights. The wife was saying, questioning what's going on, what's wrong, why are the lights dimming, and he was denying this. The lights aren't going down, I'm not seeing the lights go down, and basically made her think that she was going mad. And so this is where the term gaslighting comes from when we're talking about certain types of sort of abuse. What I want to do just now is to read something to you that I wrote about 4 years ago. So if you've been following me, I've had chronic fatigue syndrome for the last 7 years. I wrote this sort of 3 years into being ill and 3 years into trying to get help from the medical community. And if you can relate to or resonate with some of the themes in this sort of poem that I've written, then it could be that you potentially have experienced medical gaslighting. After I've read this, I'll then break it down a bit and we'll discuss it a bit more. So the poem I wrote is called Chronic. The postman comes, but I can't get to the door. I go to the toilet, but I'm so tired I must crawl on the floor. I'm so hungry, but the distance to the kitchen seems like miles. I put bread in the toaster, then must lie down on the kitchen tiles. My bloods are normal, so you don't hear me. I try to have a shower, but within seconds I must get out. I lie on the floor in a puddle, on the verge of passing out. I made it back to the bedroom, cold, wet and shivering. I don't have the energy to get dried, so I lay in my bed, quivering. My bloods are normal, so you don't hear me. My legs are like lead, and it seems almost impossible to walk. My brain feels like mush, and I can't grasp the words to talk. I can't tolerate lights, they blind my eyes and hurt my head. I used to love music, but noise overwhelms me and I must go to bed. But my bloods are normal, so you don't hear me. I've been off work for a week, a month, now years. I've lost my health, my job, my home. What's left to fear? I visit you repeatedly, but there's no advice, treatment or tonic. It's gone on so long now that you consider me chronic. But my bloods are still normal, so you still don't hear me. I have a special seat for my shower and now use a wheelchair. I'm only in my 30s, how can life be so unfair? I'm emaciated now and allergic to almost everything I eat. You refer me to a dietitian and I'm back out your office, but I'm hardly touched the seat. The dietitian's very nice, tries to be helpful and does her best, but she thinks there's something else wrong and I need more tests. My bloods are still normal, so you don't hear me. 2 years on and more tests ordered to hopefully work it out, but I'm met with pure arrogance and treated like a layabout. Your problems are in your subconscious, One neurologist said, I wanted to smash his face and punch his baldy head. My MRI was normal, so he didn't hear me. I beg you to help me as I look into your eyes. At best you give me sympathy, at worst blatant lies. I don't want your sympathy, and I don't even wish for a cure. Complementary therapists have been more helpful as the NHS is poor. My bloods are normal, so nobody hears me. So obviously the kind of main and repeated theme in that is the sense of not being heard. But what also comes up is, you know, consultants saying, oh, this is all in your head. And also sort of minimising and belittling some of the really very severe and extremely debilitating symptoms that I was experiencing for many years. And if you can resonate with any of that, then you've possibly and probably experienced this sense of gaslighting and abuse from medical professionals. So I'm going to break down some of the things that, you know, can come up for people, and it doesn't have to be all of these things for it to, you know, to be termed, you know, as abusive. But the first one is dismissing or trivialising symptoms. So I detailed in the poem, you know, the neurologist said, well, it's all in my subconscious, because basically he couldn't find an answer. And rather than say, I don't know, or I don't know if I can help, or I don't know where else to go with this, you know, there's a sort of air of arrogance, and it's, well, if I can't find it, this is in your head. I also saw a physiotherapist at one point, and she was giving me some really basic exercises to do. They were anaerobic, so they weren't cardiovascular, but when I told her that those very basic exercises were making me really tired, were making my heart race, she's told me no, I was wrong, that they couldn't be. The low level of exercise she was giving me couldn't be doing that, and totally, completely dismissed what I was telling her and the experience that I was having. The next thing is you might feel belittled or be made to feel like you're being silly or like you're wasting people's times. Again, that example of the neurologist, I was rushed out his office and I was told this is all in my head. It was as if I can't be bothered to deal with you, you don't have a real illness. I also saw a gastroenterologist at one point after developing such severe food intolerances. I could only eat 9 foods. And he belittled me. He told me what was wrong was that I just needed to eat more and put weight on. And I said, yes, I do need to eat more. I absolutely do need to put weight on. That's why I keep coming to the doctors and saying, I can't do this because I can only eat 9 foods. There is something wrong. And all he kept saying to me was, eat chocolate and ice cream, despite me telling him couldn't eat dairy because it gave me migraines. So that sense of, you know, you're being silly certainly came up with him. The next one to look at is people saying that it's all in your head, but not actually taking any action on that. So not saying, you know, I think this might be a mental health problem. Let's refer you to be assessed for that with a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a psychotherapist or whatever that might be. Just being told it's all in your head, so get out now, which is exactly what the neurologist did to me. Didn't refer me on to anyone else. When he wrote back to my GP to say he'd seen me and ruled out any neurological things, he didn't even mention in that referral or in that sort of communication, because I asked for a copy of it afterwards. He didn't even mention that he thought it was all in my head. He didn't even mention that to the GP or request for the GP to refer me on to mental health services. And that's because, one, I don't think a neurologist is clinically qualified to tell me what is in or not in my subconscious. And two, I don't think he even believed that. It was just a line, you know, I don't know what's wrong with you, so I'm going to put it back onto you. It's your fault. It's all in your head. The other things that you might experience are people disregarding evidence. I have had blood tests done by doctors, asked at later stages to see the results of them, to find out that some of the things were actually abnormal, but they were just denying that. They were saying, no, your bloods are normal, you don't need to come back in, we don't need to see you, despite me telling them all the symptoms. And I also had results that would come back suggesting that my urea was high. Now that's an indication that you're dehydrated. Now one of the things that I repeatedly went to my GP about was I am constantly thirsty and I am drinking up to 6 litres of water a day, not 6 pints, 6 litres of water a day. Nobody should be drinking that much, and I still couldn't quench my thirst. And the results were showing that I was dehydrated. And when I would tell them, when they would see the high urea, they would say, you're dehydrated, you need to drink more. And I would say, I'm drinking 6 litres a day and I cannot get rid of this thirst. And they would say, oh, that's too much, you need to drink less. Yeah, no, I need to drink less. That's why I came to you. You know, and it's also shown clinically that I am dehydrated. Yeah, I'm drinking this amount, and it just went round in circles, so that there was a bit there of disregarding evidence, and then also, you know, again, sort of minimising things and just not listening. The next thing is being stonewalled by doctors, and I've most of the examples I've given are sort of examples of this. You know, I'm saying I'm drinking all this water, they're saying drink more, I'm drinking this much. Okay, drink less then, but my urea is still high. This conversation could just go round in circles. The gastroenterologist, eat ice cream and dairy. I can't. Dairy is giving me migraines. Yeah, but just eat a little bit. But just a little bit gives me a migraine that lasts 3 days, and the fatigue afterwards lasts for 2 weeks. Yeah, but just a little bit, isn't it? Like, where do you go with that? You're just banging your head against a brick wall. The other thing is, you know, them making you doubt yourself. You know, you really start to question, is it me? Is it me? Am I somehow making this up? Is it me? Am I just not good at going in and explaining what's happening? You know, you really start to question what's going on. And that's really, that does really make you feel confused, and it's really quite disconcerting, and it's actually quite traumatising. The advice I would give to people who are maybe in the middle of something like this, where, you know, you're starting to feel like this, but you're still needing to engage with doctors, is to take someone with you to appointments. Someone who maybe lives with you, or who is seeing what is happening to you, who is seeing the symptoms, who is seeing, you know, how it affects you on a daily basis. And don't be scared for them, you know, to be vocal and back you up if doctors aren't listening. You know, having someone else to say, yes, I have seen this. This isn't just her or him. This isn't just in their head. The other thing is to keep diaries. If you're wanting to go and see someone about particular symptoms or things that are going on, start to note it down, start to write it down, how often it's happening, what's happening before the symptom comes on. You'll find lots of things online with sort of symptom diaries on it for all different sorts of, you know, illnesses. Have at least a few weeks charted out to go in and say, this is what is happening, and that can sometimes be helpful. If you're further down the line, and like me, you've just stopped dealing with doctors and the medical system, and you've experienced a lot of the things that I have, it's taken me many years to realise actually how much, you know, anger and resentment I have towards that system and towards some of the things that have happened to me. And actually I am now seeing a psychologist to deal with that abuse and what has basically, you know, become quite traumatising for me. So don't be scared to seek out. Ironically, you know, that urologist was telling me, oh, it's all in your head, and actually him and his attitude and others like him have resulted in me now having to seek psychological help. But, you know, if you need that and you're feeling you know, quite overwhelmed by your experiences within the medical system, then I would certainly encourage you to seek that out. So I hope that that's been helpful. I hope that's explained some things, and I hope if you've identified yourself as maybe someone who has experienced this or is in the middle of this, that I've been able to give you some helpful ways to move forward with that. Thank you for being here.